Sometimes the grind to unlock a gun, it's not worth it. It really isn't. What is up, everybody? Jimmy, your Chaos. Today, we're going to be going over what I think are 10 guns from Call of Duty history that were final unlock guns. Simply not worth the grind. And you can guess one of those guns that's going to be on here. If you know me at all, you let me know which of these you thought was the most lame for all the effort and work you put in. Drop a like on the video. Let's get the super obvious one out of the way at number 10. The MP44 in COD 4, the final assault rifle in the COD 4 progression system, seemingly meant to be a fun little throwback weapon to the World War II era of COD, but it was pretty clearly one of the worst guns in the game. The fire rate was low, the recoil was high, the iron sights were terrible, and the damage was inconsistent, and it was the only primary weapon in the game that didn't have any attachment, so you literally couldn't do anything about those crappy base stats. The MP44 looked and sounded cool. Yes, I will admit it was neat to have a World War II throwback gun in COD 4, but in terms of stats and viability, it was straight up bad. And since it was the very last assault rifle in the progression system, here it is today. Before we move on, guys, do me a favor. We've been doing Call of Duty videos for 16 years. There will come a time in the future, not anytime soon, but there will come a time where I hang it up and retire. So I'm really attached to you guys as a community. I read your comments every day. I am familiar with hundreds of names that come to the channel and support every single day. And I have launched 2 new YouTube channels that have nothing to do with gaming and nothing to do with Call of Duty. I'm going to put the links at the top of the description, and I would love to see you guys over there on both of them. They are passion projects, and they connect to stuff that I like, and eventually I hope to grow them and build a community over there. So I would love to see the familiar faces over there as well. So you guys can check them out. Subscribe if you enjoy the content. At number 9, the SVT-40 in COD World War II. Now, most of you know, I was not the biggest fan of this game. I'll admit, the way a lot of these guns were handled, it didn't help. Case in point, the SVT-40. A gun that was amazing in World at War, but then it returns as the final rifle in COD World War II, and it was not good. I mean, the iron sights weren't even properly aligned on the gun when the game first came out, and even after it was fixed, the gun wasn't good. The fire rate was low, the damage was bad, the average time to kill was freaking terrible. Not only was it one of the worst semi-auto rifles in COD history, it's also just not worth the grind necessary to unlock it in the first place. And since it was such a shame, I mean, it was because at World at War, I mean, the SVT was a beast. Not in COD World War II. At number 8, some of you may have guessed this already if you know me. The F2000 in Modern Warfare 2 2009. I know. Wasn't technically a final unlock gun before you spam me in the comments and say, Jimmy, fact check, you're wrong. Technically, you unlocked the AK-47 after this. But I had to put it on the list because it's one of the last guns you unlocked in the game. It was a very long grind to get your hands on it. It was absolutely 100% not worth it. The fire rate was high, yeah, but the damage was low and the recoil was super bouncy and the movement speeds weren't fast enough to justify a weapon profile like that. I mean, if the gun were an SMG, maybe we could understand what the appeal was, but since it was an assault rifle, it just raised a bunch of questions. Why would I use this weak, fast assault rifle when I could use an SMG? If this gun is only good in SMG situations, why am I sacrificing my movement speeds taking an AR when I could literally just take an SMG? I'm going to put it at number 8, because again, I know it technically wasn't a final unlock, but it was late enough in the progression. I'm giving it a shout. I really do love dumping on this gun whenever I get the chance. At number 7, the FFAR-1 in Black Ops Cold War. What a name. To be fair, there was a time when this gun was worth the grind. But then Treyarch released the now infamous patch that nerfed the FFAR into the dirt. Started out as a proper remake of the classic Black Ops 1 FAMAS. Had that high fire rate. Had that blazing time to kill. Recoil that was tough to master, but it was super rewarding once you did master it. Plus, had some of the best iron sights in COD history. The definition of a great unlock gun, but after the patch, you hardly ever saw it online again. Because Treyarch, for whatever reason, in their infinite wisdom, decided to turn it into a pea shooter for no reason. The recoil was still high. You would now have to learn how to control that. Plus, there was no payoff to actually put in work because the time to kill was way too long in basically every situation. The classic FAMAS had a blazing fire rate, brutal recall that you had to master, but the payoff was arguably the best time to kill in the entire game. The FFAR, after the patch, still had that fire rate, still had that brutal recoil, but no payoff. At number 6, the M240 in Modern Warfare 2 2009. Now, I want to start by saying the gun wasn't really bad. It just wasn't really good. And I bet most of you who were around during the classic Modern Warfare 2 era probably remember everything other than the M240. It was an LMG, final weapon in its class. You had to grind all the way to level 52 to get your hands on this one, and you literally never saw this thing online. Again, it wasn't a bad gun on its own, but it left a lot to be desired when you compared it to other guns in the game. Needed 4 to 5 shots to kill. Handled really slowly. Had a really long reload animation. Overall, it just didn't really speak to those who played the game aggressively, which I think was most people. Again, it's not that the M240 was bad across the board. It just wasn't good. Nobody was excited to unlock this gun. Nobody was grinding the Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer and thinking to themselves, man, I can't wait to unlock the M240. It wasn't happening. At number 5, the fad in Modern Warfare 3 2011. Bring on the comments. I can take it, I promise. I don't see the appeal of the gun, never have, and for the number of hours you had to put in to unlock it, I don't see how anybody thought it was worth it. Yeah, had a really fast fire rate, that's awesome, but the damage profile was so low and it had unreliable recoil along with some iron sights that some people like, but other people thought was terrible, myself included. Basically, this was the F2000 all over again. There wasn't much reason to use this gun over assault rifles because it wasn't very reliable at mid to long range, and it also did not have much of a purpose for close range combat when you could be using one of the incredible SMGs in the game. Now, I do think the FAD was slightly better than the F2000 if that gets me any bonus points. That's why it gets a higher spot, because it was even longer of a grind to unlock, and at the end of the day, it just did not have the kind of impact that a final unlock gun should have. A final unlock shouldn't be completely invalidated by a basic SMG. At number 4, the Compact 92 with a K in Black Ops 6. There was a time when I thought this was one of the coolest SMGs in the entire game, and to be fair, it is a cool gun, but cool does not equal good, and even though the Compact 92 had an incredible fire rate and a great point-blank time to kill, everything else about it was struggle bus. It was pretty clearly the worst SMG in the game, which is awkward because it was also the last SMG in the game. The recoil was heavy, the range drop-off was brutal. At point-blank range, yeah, time to kill was great. But as soon as you backed up any bit from that point-blank range, it turned into a marshmallow shooter. And with how quick the other SMGs can kill you at point-blank and mid-range, there was no reason to use the Compact, especially since the other SMGs were easier to control. I guess if you really wanted to use a bullet hose and you didn't care about being completely irrelevant beyond point-blank range, then you could use this thing. But it was clearly the worst SMG in the game, and it was the last SMG in the progression system. At number 3, the SawOff shotgun in COD World War II. A shotgun that was literally less effective than a melee attack for a while. I'm not joking. When COD World War II first dropped, the SawOff, which was the final shotgun of the progression system, was so bad that it could get you 2 hit markers. It was a double-barreled shotgun that was supposed to make up for the terrible ammo capacity and long reload animation with some really insane damage, but instead, it was bad. It was inconsistent. It was like a little water gun that would tickle the enemy a couple times and then leave you hanging. You were literally better off running around hitting people with it. Sledgehammer did eventually buff the SawOff, and it certainly is better now than it was initially, but it's still the worst shotgun in the game because of the horrible range and needlessly long reload animation, and it was the final unlock. At number 2, the HS-10 in Black Ops. Now, it was kind of cool how the original Black Ops had classified weapons as the last one in their class, which made things really awkward when the classified gun, well, it sucked. The HS-10, it was terrible, and yet it was one of the final things you unlocked in the game. Semi-auto shotgun held only 4 shells at a time. And those shells, you had to load them individually. Fire rate was low, range was terrible, one-shot kills were extremely rare, and sure, you could dual-wield them, but they actually came with the accuracy nerf, so you were actually dealing less damage on average despite you literally firing off 2 of them at the same time. I really don't know how the gun was supposed to be a rewarding final unlock. Nobody was excited about it, and nobody used it. And at number 1 today, is it Caparis? Is it Caparis? Is it Caparis? Black Ops 1. I think it's Caparis, right? Caparis? Yeah, the SMGs in the original Black Ops were terrible. If you weren't using the AK-74U, you were using the wrong SMG. Now, some people swore that the MP5K was underrated. They were wrong, but everybody knew that the 74U dictated the SMG meta in this game, and the final classified SMG did not even come close to standing up to it. The K may have had a high fire rate, may have had relatively low recoil, but the damage, it wasn't there. It would typically give you 20 hit markers before letting your target blow you across the screen from 3 bullets, whatever gun they were using. I'm exaggerating a little, maybe 17 hit markers. It wasn't the worst SMG in the game, but it was nowhere near high tier. Heck, it was barely mid tier, and even though, even then, it would depend on who you were talking to. Honestly, it was a subjective thing. For a final unlock, it needed to be better. Heck, the Black Ops 1 SMG, just class, needed to be better as a whole. There you have it, my friends. Let me know two that I didn't say that deserve to be on this list, and check out those channels if you guys want to follow me on some new journeys.